Real life was scary enough in 2016, which might explain why it wasn't a fantastic year for big screen horror. Sure, there were a few gems like The Witch, Hush and The Neon Demon, but there were a fair few turds which stuck up out of the bowl. Despite this, there have been some fantastic frights to be had, little moments which made you and your bowels bitter enemies. And because 'tis the time of giving at present, we've collected all these short, sharp shocks up for you in a tidy little list. With this in mind, I'm Jules for WhatCulture.com, and this is the 10 scariest moments of 2016. Number 10. Doomhead's intro. 31. Okay, so 31 is a film. Like, it's a truly boring, badly acted mess, which is a shame as the premise sounded quite fun. A load of carnival roadies get embroiled in a competition of murder and are tasked with surviving a night of hell. There's even some cool characters like a Nazi midget and this guy. Look, I said before it was a bad film, okay? Doomhead, however, is quite the terrifying tibia terror, as his intro, which begins the film, is a brooding monologue to one of his immediate victims. The long lingering close-up, the blood-caked makeup, and the intensity of actor Richard Brake's performance makes it an unbelievably tense experience to sit through. It's just a shame about the other 98% of the film being absolute bullbag. Number 9. The opening scene, Lights Out. Lights Out was a nice little horror treat for fans in 2016, thanks to effective scenes of tension, a creative monster design, and strong performances. The film was actually based on an acclaimed short, which was a terrifying couple of minutes. The opening of the feature version is a more elaborate take on this, where the monster stalks the owner of a warehouse late at night. The director makes the most of the eerie locale, carefully setting up the geography before unleashing the beast. This opening is also able to establish the rules of the monster without having to spell things out, and that's a big bloody tick in my book. Number 8. The Acid Drum. 10 Cloverfield Lane. 10 Cloverfield Lane is the sort of sequel to Cloverfield, only this time it follows a group of people trapped in an underground bunker after the world may or may not have been invaded by aliens. Things get tense when two of the survivors realise the owner of the bunker, played by John He's a Good Man Goodman, may be a secret psychopath, and their lives could be in danger. They use some of his tools in secret to create a biohazard suit so they can escape, but Goodman discovers that something is amiss and then shows them this drum of acid. He threatens to kill both of them unless they come clean, and this scene is agonizingly tense. And when the tension seems about to dissipate, this happens. John Goodman, ladies and gentlemen, a real barrel of laughs. Way! Number 7. The basement scene. Don't Breathe. Director Fede Alvarez proved with his Evil Dead remake that he knows how to make audiences squirm, thanks to a mixture of gross-out body humour and fluids just shooting everywhere. He toned down the gore a bit for Don't Breathe, but even then he conceived of a deeply gross scene involving leading lady Jane Levy. That was a bit of a tongue twister, wasn't it? She plays one of 3 thieves who break into a house of a rich blind man, not realising that he's a psychopath with a dark secret. It turns out he kidnapped the lady who killed his child in an accident and impregnated her with a turkey baster so that she could then conceive a replacement for him. When this poor lady dies trying to escape, he blames Levy's character, tying her up in a harness. He explains his plan in terrifying detail about how he'll use her as a surrogate instead, and then preps another baster from the fridge. It's deeply unsettling to say the least. Number 6. Got a Split. Blair Witch. While one review proclaimed loudly that the Blair Witch was a game changer, this belated third installment proved to be a major letdown. It was just a rehash of the first movie but with fancier cameras, and it didn't add much to the convoluted mythology of the series. But it had one hell of a good scare though, featured in the scene where the new group of terrified idiots lost in the woods discovered their tents are surrounded by stick figures. 2 characters, Ashley and Talia, get into an argument about this, with Talia being accused of making them in secret. Ashley snaps one of the figures in anger, which has the unfortunate side effect of ripping Talia in half too. This film definitely lacked the atmosphere of the original, but this one moment alone redeemed it slightly. Number 5. Failed Negotiation. Green Room. While not technically a horror movie, Green Room certainly isn't short on tension or gore. The film is stomach-churning tense in places, and an oppressive atmosphere clings to it. Once things go sideways and a luckless punk band are trapped inside their green room by a bunch of neo-Nazis, all they have to keep themselves safe is a large handgun. The leader of the Nazis, played with chilling calm by Patrick Stewart, makes them a deal. Hand over the weapon and they can just walk away. It's a risky move, but they take their chances and decide to hand it over. Of course it goes wrong, leading to the band manager getting his arm hacked to bits in addition to losing the gun. The entire scene is crackling with suspense and the resulting attack is a real shocker. Number 4. A jawsome scare. The Shallows. The Shallows was a surprisingly enjoyable genre entry revolving around Blake Lively being trapped on a rock while a ridiculously hungry shark circles around her, which for everything else she's been in seems like a fitting punishment. This simple setup setup is milked for every ounce of suspense, and it has a couple of really good jump scares. The best involves Lively trying to retrieve a helmet without attracting the shark's attention. She manages to retrieve it only to turn around while the shark jumps out of the water right behind her, and gives her a good show of its massive jaws. This shock is expertly timed and sends adrenaline crashing through the scene and the viewer. Number 3. The ceiling scare, Ouija, Origin of Evil. Ouija, Origin of Evil shocked everyone by not being a steaming pile of shit. Like the title suggests, this one is actually a prequel, telling the story of how the events of the first movie came to be. It's a solid little horror flick too, and saves the best scare for last. This involves the surviving sister trying to summon the spirit of her dead counterpart. A doctor walks past her door and notices the two sisters together, but when he looks again he can only see one, failing to notice the evil sister now running across the ceiling towards him. Audiences usually expect one last jolt before a horror movie ends, and this moment alone was better than the entire first movie. Number 2. The Crooked Man reveal, The Conjuring 2. The Conjuring 2, which despite being over 2 hours long, never felt like it outstayed its welcome. It also had a few standout scares throughout. One scene that really gets the spine all tingly comes near the climax, where Ed Warren is trapped inside a house and comes across a spinning toy inside a tent. The toy shows a little movie of the Crooked Man creature from earlier on in the movie, but as it continues spinning, the Crooked Man seems to vanish from it. Ed looks up in confusion to find the ghost is smiling right at him. It's a lovely piece of misdirection, and this well-timed scare was pure nightmare fuel. And number 1, the cannibals prepare for dinner, Bone Tomahawk. Bone Tomahawk is actually quite tough to categorize. It's about 80% Western, but in the end it turns into an utterly terrifying horror movie in its last act. The story revolves around a group of men trying to rescue a kidnapped woman, and they slowly come to realize the men they're chasing are a tribe of cannibals. They're taken prisoner by the tribe late in this story, and the sheriff has to watch helplessly as the clan prepare to cannibalize one of his men. The sheer dread and brutality of this moment burn its way into your brain, and the camera doesn't flinch from showing the poor guy being scalped and split apart in the most painful way imaginable. Bone Tomahawk is a top-class western with a great cast, and while it hinted at some unease before this, the horrific nature of this comes as a total shock. And that's our list. Got any more scares of 2016 you'd like to share? Well, tell me about them in the comments section below. And if you want to haunt me like the ghost at the feast, you can do so on my personal Twitter, RetroJ0. If you enjoyed this video, then like, share, and subscribe for more. As always, I've been Jules for WhatCulture.com, and I'll see you soon.